One of these Jesus Revolution kids gave me a hoodie that they made, and it's nice. This nice, oversized black hoodie. It says Jesus is King. Check it out. That's me right there at Delphi. And I walked through there with that Jesus is King sweatshirt. And I'll tell you this, that I also wore it in Greece. And guess what? As I walked through Athens wearing that hoodie, Jesus is still King. and I walked through Corinth, and guess what? Jesus is King at Corinth. And I walked through Philippi, the very first church in Europe where Lydia and Paul met. She came to know Jesus. You know what? 2,000 years later, Jesus is still King. He's King in every single one of those places. And you know what? I got into my hotel the first night. It was super late. It was like midnight. I walked a couple blocks away because I was still on U.S. time. I just wanted a little something to eat. I was going to take a snack to Kelly back at the room. And I found myself right in the middle of a Muslim neighborhood. It was very obvious, especially as I realized I was wearing my Jesus is King hoodie. And you know what? In that neighborhood, Jesus is still King. I know a lot of gods, and they're all in a tomb. But the tomb of Jesus is empty because he's King. And I'm so thankful. If you're thankful for Jesus today, no matter how you slice it, Jesus is King. Luke chapter 19, the Bible says, verse 36, as he rode along, the crowd spread out their garments on the road ahead of him. When he reached the place where the road started down the Mount of Olives, all of his followers began to shout and sing as they walked along. This is in the triumphal entry into Jerusalem. They began to sing, blessings on the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest heaven. But some of the Pharisees among the crowd said, Teacher, rebuke your followers for saying things like that. And in the most gangster thing that Jesus ever said, he said, if they kept quiet, the stones along the road would burst into cheers. Whether you praise Jesus or not, he will be praised. Whether you lift your hands in worship or not, he will be praised. Whether a church gathers or doesn't gather, let me tell you, he doesn't need us. He's just invited us. And let me tell you, Jesus will be praised because even the rocks will cry out. Listen, if we don't speak, the rocks will cry out. Now, an interesting thing about this passage is that this passage is written before Jerusalem was destroyed. We'll take a look a little bit deeper here in this passage. We're going to read down another couple verses, and we'll have an eye towards some things that are historically verifiable, some claims in this passage immediately after Jesus says even the rocks will cry out. And you'll see that it will have an even deeper meaning in the context of the message today. Verse 41 of Luke chapter 19, the Bible says, but as he came closer to Jerusalem and saw the city, where was he going? Jerusalem. Say that with me. As he came closer to Jerusalem and saw the city ahead. What did he see? He saw a city. He began to weep. How I wish today that you of all people would understand the way to peace, but now it is too late, and peace is hidden from your eyes. Before long, your enemies will build ramparts against your walls and encircle you and close in on you from every side. They will crush you into the ground and your children with you. Your enemies will not leave a single stone in place because you did not recognize it when God visited you. So do you hear what Jesus is doing? He's prophesying the destruction of the city of Jerusalem and of the temple. And so just for fact here, if you're tracking along your notes, I put this down, you can go back and reference it a little bit later, but the temple and the city of Jerusalem were destroyed in AD 70. So about 35 years later from this prophecy, Jerusalem would be brought to the ground. Now back in May, I was in Israel, and I had this really incredible experience where I got to go into an excavation site, an archaeological site, that I really don't know many people that have been able to go in there. I was with some of the National Faith Advisory Board and some guests. Some of the people that'll be in this video, some of them are some really top leaders and some of the people that you can't see, both in Israel and in the U.S. And where I'm at is I'm underneath the ground between where the temple was and where the pool of Siloam is. I was on the road and the steps down from the temple to the pool. And so we're in this archaeological site and had this really cool thing happen. Check this out.
So this is how things look like before they're extracted. So this entire tunnel, this is how it looked like. Now, we don't play Jenga here. We don't pull the bottom stuff first. We start from the top, go down. Once we go deep enough, we stop. Engineers, they're tagged in, okay? They start building a new support. Then the archaeologists come back and go, it's ping pong, okay? And one of the things we find at the bottom layer on the floor itself is something Jesus also prophesied about. Anybody want to take their hand out? Just put your hand out, opposite. I don't want to. Okay? This is Jerusalem that was burnt 2,000 years ago by the Romans. This is the destruction that Jesus prophesied
Never
about.
wash that hand.
Again.
Wow. Did you video that hand?
I did video the hand,
Would you,
yes.
would you forward me the video of my hand?
I would definitely, yes, sir.
How incredible is that? He put an instrument into the ground at the layer of where Israel was, 80, 70, and he took the burnt pieces of the temple and the city of Jerusalem and put them on the back of my hand. Now I took a notepad from my hotel and I rubbed it off on the notepad. I got about 5 sheets of paper. I got that set aside somewhere. That's amazing. And so here Jesus is recording a prophecy 35 years before the temple and the city were burnt. You know what I experienced right there? The rocks cried out on my hand. That'll mess with you if you're an atheist. That'll mess with you if you don't believe that there's a Jesus, if you don't believe that there's a God. It's just one more prophecy that adds validity to the scriptures and the claims of Jesus.